Hey, what is going on, everyone? Well, I'm so glad you have took your time to spend with me right here today. I am your co-host for the MRB Wrestling Review Show, Mike McRock Wilson, and we just saw WWE Friday Night SmackDown coming from South Carolina. The show kicked off with a Dublin street fight. It was Sheamus going one-on-one with Damien Sandow. And, man, I gotta tell you, this was a good way to kick off SmackDown last night because, man, this street fight was probably as brutal or maybe more as the main event of Monday Night Raw when it was Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan. Now, the thing is, Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan are good wrestlers, but with Sheamus, you get that brawler feel, so you add that extra element to the street fight. And that's the reason why I think this match was so amazing, because it was so brutal. And I really like the little things, throughout this match. The green kendo sticks, the green stool, even the bar taps, really living up to the name of the Dublin street fight, right? Of course. And the funny thing was, the first half of the match had hardly any near falls, in it. But when they got to the second half, holy smokes, it was all out near falls. It was brutal, and it really lived up to the name of a Dublin street fight, like I said. And I also believe that this was the match that, that closes out the rivalry between Sheamus and Damien Sandow. Now that Damien Sandow can focus on the Money in the Bank World Heavyweight Championship match, which I will get to later on. And as well as Sheamus going into the WWE Championship Money in the Bank ladder match. I think, Sheamus is one of those dark horses, as well as Sandow, which I will, like I said, get to later on. But I think that Sheamus is one of those guys right now that really don't need to win or lose matches. So, I like that, the Money in the Bank ladder match, like was said on the one of the later matches, was that someone mentioned it's an all-star match. So, hopefully this will live up to the hype. And speaking of living up to the hype, Daniel Bryan, here's a guy right now that is really getting, the sheep, so to speak, from the fans chanting yes and no throughout the Kane and Randy Orton match. And so, the little things I like, that happened, with, Daniel Bryan, getting the crowd going, he's got the sheep now, chanting yes when he chants yes, and when he chants no, the fans chant no, so he's got that crowd behind him, his sheep, right? And I was unsure of the direction where this Randy Orton and Kane match was going. Not there was anything wrong with the wrestling match, I just wasn't unsure. It left a question mark to, kind of ask myself, okay, what is this leading to? That was until, you see throughout the match that Daniel Bryan was wanting Kane to, beat Orton. Until, Kane was outside the ring. Daniel Bryan kind of helped him out. Daniel Bryan thought he was helping him out when he, put Kane back in the ring, and then just fell into an RKO. Randy Orton pins him 1, 2, 3. And the smirk that was Daniel Bryan's face was almost like he was laughing inside that Kane has lost. So those little things really made up for, the direction where that match was going. So, and hence, Daniel Bryan saved the match. Also last night, sometimes, the guys in the truck that make all these wrestling videos of what happened in previous weeks, such as last Monday Night on Raw with CM Punk and Paul Heyman. That segment alone really, planted seeds of, CM Punk being the main event guy at WrestleMania, right? I mean, that was just one of those moments where you really see the small little seeds planted and wait for that tree to grow. And with that being said, man, these guys in the truck making these videos don't get enough credit. The way that video was made with that segment with CM Punk and Paul Heyman, like CM Punk, was just pure genius. The way they conveyed the camera shots and that moment where CM Punk hugged Paul Heyman with the expression on his face and the camera focusing on CM Punk's face at that moment, and when the certain music hit, the mood of that video was just excellent. It was gold. Oh man, it's just one of those things that really gets me excited to see what's going to happen now with CM Punk this Monday coming on Monday Night Raw. Absolutely. And I'm not sugarcoating that, by the way. I believe that, for sure. Also, that's night. With all that said, Paul Heyman was a guest on Miz TV, and what I like is that when the Miz questioned Paul Heyman, to try to get some answers if Heyman is lying to CM Punk. Was he really behind Lesnar coming out and attacking CM Punk? I like that, Paul Heyman, kind of swerved to the direction of, here comes Curtis Axel, so he really didn't want to talk about it. And here's a case of, SmackDown being the secondary show. We hardly see Paul Heyman talk about, the story behind him, CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, any of those guys, because, the focus of that story is on Monday Night Raw. So that's the reason why SmackDown still feels like the secondary show. So they kind of swerve that curve into not talking about that. And I like that, those little things. But in the same time, it don't look good for SmackDown. So I'm kind of 50-50 split on that situation. But what I did like was that, Paul Heyman did, swerve the curve. Curtis Axel comes out. And The Miz wanting to face Curtis Axel for the Intercontinental Championship because he feels like he's been robbed from that triple threat match a couple of weeks ago at Payback with Wade Barrett. And so I like this little one-on-one rivalry that's going to happen. But see, here's the problem I have. The Miz is still trying so hard to be that baby face and get the fans' reaction to cheer for him by telling jokes and etc. that really don't need to be happening. Just let The Miz try his thing on his own and let him be a baby face without trying too hard. And I think that's the key to Miz becoming, going over with the fans as a babyface, I think, in my opinion. As well with Curtis Axel. I think Curtis Axel is trying too hard, trying so hard to be a villain. He's forgetting that he's aligned himself with Paul Heyman, so he could be hated nonetheless. So he don't have to try too hard to be a villain, and that's the thing. So, and with that said, he really don't need to speak on the microphone, which he did. But what I did like was that when he attacked The Miz, he used this cool new finisher. Instead of using that swinging neckbreaker, which I really disagree with, he used this neckbreaker, but without, planting Miz neck first. He kind of modified that and twisted his head back and drove him face first. Those little things, those little changes into his wrestling repertoire, those things I love because, now he can add that to his, wrestling moves as well as the Perfect Plex. Perfect Plex is just one of those things where, you just want to get the fans that pop, just to apply that move and pin the guy 1, 2, 3, those kind of things. Even defending the Intercontinental Champ, go for those kind of moves. And if it's a non-title match, go for that move he just done on The Miz. That move is perfect for that guy. Pun intended. Also last night, AJ Lee went one-on-one with Natalya. And throughout this match, Caitlyn came out mocking AJ, skipping around the ring, etc., talking like AJ, twirling the hair like AJ, doing those weird mannerisms like AJ does. I think Caitlyn really overdone AJ when AJ was mocking Caitlyn. Because, when Caitlyn came out, I actually thought at first, whoa, am I seeing double? Because that really, that was a better AJ Caitlyn did than AJ doing Caitlyn, in my opinion. And what really came off weird was that Caitlyn putting some guys on the spot, like the timekeeper and the doctor, even Lillian Garcia, putting those three on the spot, which is really, really awkward, but it worked in the same time, as well as Big E Langston's reaction when Caitlyn was skipping around the ring doing absolutely nothing. I thought that was actually the funniest part of that segment. And with Caitlyn, with Natalya getting the victory over AJ really didn't hurt AJ because it was all about Caitlyn getting the revenge on AJ. So enough said about that. Also last night, Ryback went one-on-one with Justin Gabriel. I think there was no need for Justin Gabriel to be in this match. I think, if it was Zack Ryder or someone in that level where their career is not really going anywhere, like a Zack Ryder or anyone, or even Kurt Hawkins or anyone of that nature, don't put Justin Gabriel in that situation, because I think Justin Gabriel is one of those guys that really deserves a push, for a championship match, a US or Intercontinental Championship, or even bring back the Cruiserweight Championship, for God's sake. I mean, this guy, Justin Gabriel, really deserves a push. And I'm so sick and tired of WWE putting him in situations where they really don't help him. Really don't like it. But with that said, what good came out of that? Not the Ryback victory, but Chris Jericho coming out and mocking Ryback with, oh, are you hurt? Is your leg hurt? Are you going to whine some more, complain some more, and make more excuses? And then he called him Cryback. You know what? I think Chris Jericho watches Aftermath, because they've been talking about that before anyone else did. So, kudos to Chris Jericho for telling it like it is on SmackDown. Just kudos, thumbs up, Chris Jericho. You just saved the entire segment and match. God bless you, man. Also last night, a couple of Wyatt family promos happening on SmackDown last night. I'm still waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. And the more I wait for it, the more I expect the Wyatt family to come out. So I don't know if it's going to be in an unpredictable kind of way, because I'm always expecting it right now. And the funny thing is, WWE right now has been spending so much time, well, not as much time as the Damien Sandow and Sheamus build-up, but WWE has spent so much time on these Wyatt family promos. I hope that their debut lives up to the hype as much as their promos are, and if it doesn't, that would be a big flop for the WWE as a debut. So I think because of these, it's kind of like saying Chris Jericho's third coming, right? With those really sinister promos, and then it's like, oh, it's Chris Jericho, right? Excellent, perfect, right? Excellent. And with Wyatt family, I hope that happens, and I hope it's not a flop. So hopefully WWE and these Wyatt family promos, what they're doing, hope it lives up to the hype. Also last night, The Shield. The main event was a 6-man tag team match. The Shield, the US champ Dean Ambrose, and the tag team champions Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins went against the Usos, the number one contenders for the tag team champions, and Christian. And what I like about this match were the little things, the proper entrances from the Shield, not only the Shield, but Christian and the Usos, absolutely needed for all those guys. And even the early standoff and then going to commercial break and then following up with a tremendous match throughout. And again, the little things I like, even close to the end with Seth Rollins, with his high flying moment, near the end, really solidifies Seth Rollins as the high flyer guy. And there were some moments where Roman Reigns felt like he's the power guy and Dean Ambrose as the weird guy. Great combination for a 3-man tag, right? Absolutely, and it works for the Shield. And also, little seeds have been planted now with a one-on-one championship match with Dean Ambrose and Christian for the United States Championship. And here's what I like about that. Christian is one of those guys right now that really don't need to be elevated. He'll be one of those guys that helps elevate other superstars, such as Dean Ambrose, and the U.S. Championship as well. So I think Dean Ambrose gaining a victory over, the Christian in the near future for a one-on-one championship match would be perfect. And with that said, the winner of this match was Christian pinning Dean Ambrose. Again, another loss that really don't hurt the Shield because nothing is on the line. And with that said, Christian, helping out Dean Ambrose right now for a future possible championship match, maybe at SummerSlam or maybe within the next few weeks. And though, again, like I said, would help Dean Ambrose elevate not only the Shield, and not only as an individual, but also for the United States Championship as well. That will solidify Dean Ambrose. No doubt. But see, here's the thing. With that said, with the Usos being number one contenders for the World Tag Team Championships, going up against Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, here's an if the Usos do defeat Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns for the Tag Team Championships, that really don't help the Shield as a cohesive unit. It helps as an individual's perspective within the Shield if they were to branch off into singles competition. In my opinion, I think. So, and hence that, I think, the Usos, if they were to win, build it up even more. Just let it go on for a few weeks and let's just see what happens. And the main event. Well, that was the main event, but in the final segment, it was Alberto Del Rio's Fiesta. Little things I like about that segment. The Dolph Ziggler's face on the piñata, and Ricardo making fun of the crowd really solidified himself as, okay, here's a guy that really didn't know which way to go, as, if he were going to get cheers or boos. And what he did on Raw was excellent, making fun of the crowd. No different on SmackDown, making fun of the South Carolina saying y'all and stuff like that. Pure genius from Ricardo. Just trying to get the heat, but he's still getting the cheers, getting the laughs. But he's attempting to get that heat, and right now it's working. And what I also like is that Del Rio right now, he's great as a heel. And the little things that he done in that promo, I'm going to speak Spanish right now, and he was speaking Spanish, and that's a good way to, gain that heat from the crowd, is to do those little things like that. And right now, I think he has found his niche as a world champ and as a heel and as a superstar. So with all that said, Dolph Ziggler coming out, getting his revenge on Del Rio. Del Rio escapes, getting more heat, and here's Ricardo, getting the blunt of it every single time, right? It's perfect. Putting Ricardo in that situation always helps the guy who's a babyface. Because that moment, when Dolph Ziggler hit, Ricardo Rodriguez with the guitar was excellent. That'll gain some cheers for the crowd. But now I'm not there in the crowd, so I really don't, get to see, how the fans are reacting. But it seems like that Del Rio is getting more boos than Dolph. It seems like Del Rio is getting more boos than Dolph Ziggler getting cheers. So I don't know if this is gonna work with this rivalry with Del Rio or Dolph Ziggler. I'll give him more time. But, this is not really working right now, but I think in time, I think it will. I hope now if Dolph Ziggler does something, I think Dolph Ziggler should do something really groundbreaking to gain that more cheers so that this rivalry will work. And I think they'll have an excellent World Heavyweight Championship match at Money in the Bank. I think Money in the Bank it has been one of those pay-per-views that really it feels like one of those pay-per-views that sometimes is a little better than the main ones, like Survivor Series and SummerSlam. So, this is it. It's going to be really interesting to see now within the next few weeks what happens on Raw, SmackDown, and the build-up to Money in the Bank. And speaking of Money in the Bank, right now, I'm going to announce who's in this Money in the Bank, the match, the World Heavyweight Championship match. And what I like about this is that when Teddy Long announced who's going to be in this Money in the Bank World Heavyweight Championship ladder match at Money in the Bank, I like that, he was going to announce, to the world when he comes out. But then, Vince kind of came in and, when Vince comes in and he wants to know something about, what a match is going to be about, just tell him backstage. Perfect. Makes sense, right? So, in the World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank ladder match, it will be Damien Sandow, Antonio Cesaro, Cody Rhodes, Jack Swagger, Fandango, Wade Barrett, and the United States Champion, Dean Ambrose. I think out of those 7, I think the guy who really needs this briefcase is Wade Barrett. Because he's fresh out of losing his Intercontinental Championship, and right now, he needs something. And that thing is that briefcase. And with that said, I think that Dean Ambrose, I think it's a little early for him. However, I don't mind him, having that briefcase. I really don't mind Dean Ambrose having that briefcase. However, I think it's a little early for Ambrose to have that briefcase. Guys like Damien Sandow and Cody Rhodes really feel like the dark horses that may win, but I really don't know for certain if they should. But I do feel like dark horses. Jack Swagger, he don't need to win. As well as Antonio Cesaro and Fandango coming out fresh from his, concussion. He's one of those guys that I'm 50-50 split with. He could win, he could not win. I really don't mind if he would, because, he could use something as well. But the funny thing was, when I was writing down all these superstars, the guy that I almost forgot was Jack Swagger. And that'll show, you that who should not really win. He's one of those guys. But guys like Dean Ambrose and Wade Barrett, those two guys, I'm placing my bet on the World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank ladder match at the pay-per-view. And that was my review of Friday Night SmackDown. Wow, 24 minutes long. The longest review I've done yet. I'm your co-host for the MRB Wrestling Review Show, Mike McRock Wilson. Get plenty of rest. And always do your best.